Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. I promise that I'll quit at 10:30, even if it's in mid-sentence. So let me begin with the fact of no financial arrangements. What I'd like to quickly do is recognize ophthalmology as the most beautiful and desirable of all medical specialties. We're all aware of that. Sometimes our colleagues are not. But I congratulate all of you for going into ophthalmology. We have historically led in science and education. We have a very strong international community, as this grand meeting indicates, but there's still lots of challenges over the world. And just I want to bring you maybe a little bit of Eurocentric evolution of ophthalmology, and international ophthalmology, and a brief review of the challenge which Peter has mentioned, and I will probably not, and certainly not outline ICO programs and status, which he has done very well. You know, I should for this meeting have put Indian medicine at the top. The Chinese think they're at the top, the Indians are certain they're at the top, and when in India, follow what India thinks. I think you're historically a leader in ophthalmic writing and care. I could have picked the 300 is an arbitrary number of years. There's nothing that happened immediately that I'm aware of 300 years ago that makes a difference, but there was in the 1500s couching in Japan as well as around the world. And in 1774, Daviel really is credited with the modern cataract treatment, followed fairly rapidly or concurrently with an intracapsular cataract extraction by Richter in Germany. Benjamin Franklin in America invented bifocals. Mydriasis came in 1800, and Thomas Young wrote about accommodation, color vision, and astigmatism. Now, just a bit about the medical politics. And now I'm speaking primarily of what is written and what is talked about in American ophthalmology at this time. There were nasty, nasty competitions. Medicine was not highly regarded until the 20th century. And there were horrible battles in print, much anti and pro advertising. Many surgeons did some eye surgery, and the training was poor and non-existent. However, there were other things happening in the first part of the 1800s. Von Graefe, then strabismus, enucleation, and the big thing at that time, anesthesia by Long and Morton. The first half of the 1800s had the evolution of Hermann Ludwig Ferdinand von Helmholtz, a name revered in ophthalmology, but at that time he was talking about color vision along with sight, hearing, energy, music, ice, and glaciers. He was quite a brain. As you've already heard, the first eye hospital was in Vienna in 1786. The independent department in 1805 in Vienna, and first public eye hospital, Moorfields. The dates are arguable in all cases, but Moorfields gets that credit, and the University of Vienna gets the credit for the first professor of ophthalmology, George Beer. Now, the second half of the 1800s was a better time. It was, in a sense, I won't say, probably stretching it to say golden age, but it was a scientific breakthroughs. Still, preceptorships were held tightly, poor general training, much advertising and self-aggrandizement, and very, very much mean-spirited rhetoric and writing about other practitioners, including ophthalmologists. But there were a few great greats who made, in this case, Helmholtz made the specialty of ophthalmology by inventing the ophthalmoscope. Only then practitioners who could use the ophthalmoscope really advanced themselves and became known as ophthalmologists. Prior to that, they were practicing everything else as well, people who treated the eye. Atropine, pardon me, let me go back here. Oh, let me go forward, enough. We have in the 1800s neonatorum, ophthalmia neonatorum treatment, topical anesthesia, which was a major change, and the concept of transplantation. The second half of the 1800s indicated the socialization of ophthalmologists. The German Ophthalmological Society has the record being established in 1857. The American Ophthalmological Society, 64, and then you see those going on after that, American Academy of Ophthalmology and Otolaryngology in 1896, and Japanese thereafter. The International Council began through the International Congress of Ophthalmology, which is the oldest continuously active medical meeting in the world. And you know our next one is in Cape Town in 2020. In 1927, the International Council was established in order to bring, after World War I, some order and administration to the congresses. In the first half of the 1900s, Gonan described retinal detachment surgery. The American Board of Ophthalmology was established, as was the International Council of Ophthalmology. Scientific ophthalmology began in the second half of the 1900s with the NIH, and you've heard about that just prior. The subspecialty societies began to develop. Example, the Retina Society in the U.S. in 1967. Supranational organizations evolved. We'll hear more about that. And instrumentation, sutures, everything got better. At the same time, supranational organizations began to evolve. And the first one was the Pan American Association of Ophthalmology, then the European Society, Asia Pacific, Middle East Africa, and most recently, the African Ophthalmology Council, Sub-Saharan Africa. 48, the WHO, IAPB in 75, Academia Ophthalmological the same year, and a number of non-governmental organizations. Helen Keller was established in 1919 and is 100 years old as well. CBM, IEF, Sightsavers, Fred Hollows, all names that you're familiar with, and many of you may have worked with them. The international subspecialty organizations have over 40 members in the ICO. Now, the international education effects are not localized to international organizations. This society is having a major impact and all in ophthalmic education, not only here, but this arena and now around the world. I'd just like to mention something very special that happened to me, and that was in the early 1980s, Pran Nagpal and I became friendly. And he would come to the American Academy of Ophthalmology each year, and I was the CEO. And Pran said, you know, we need some help. Indian ophthalmologists can't afford to come to this meeting. If you could give them a complimentary registration, I would see that leading ophthalmologists would come every year, and we would take that information gained back to our society and begin to continuously improve it. I did, he did, and the effects are here today. Peter has mentioned this already, and I won't stay looking at that, But actually, the latest guess is that there are 233,000 ophthalmologists worldwide. And you've seen the membership of the ICO right now. There's a whole litany of discussions about low resource and high resource worlds. They're very different. But let me just describe in closing the experience I had with several others when we went to Nigeria in 2004. Nigeria, the largest population of Sub-Saharan Africans, as well as the largest number of ophthalmologists. But what we found in their training was no curricula, no evaluations, no subspecialties, inadequate teachers, and very poor leadership skills. So we set about responding to those needs, and at that point, and today, we have, as Peter said earlier, we have a resident curriculum with 16 segments and 7 fellowship curricula. For evaluations, many opportunities worldwide. We have established the curricula for subspecialties, and with fellowships, we've made a major impact in improving subspecialization in Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as worldwide. The teachers, you've heard about teaching the teachers from Peter, and we have a leadership program underway. I won't, in the sense of time and 30 seconds left, let me just finish with the last new program, which is the Maghrabi ICO Cameroon Eye Institute. It is in Yaoundé, Cameroon. It's a major physical and clinical entity that is francophone primarily, taking care of Central Africa, and will, in the years ahead, be a leading educational and care program in Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you for your attention, and we have completed ourselves on time. Mr. Chairman, thank you.